Questioning Everything with Garrett and Adam, Episode 2.
Hi, Adam.
Hi, Garrett. This voice is the voice of Adam.
This is the voice of Garrett.
Now you know which one's which, who's who. Okay, so we're starting episode 2, and the subject for today is
The left versus the right and cancel culture. Yeah.
which is super exciting for everybody.
Well, especially if you scroll Facebook these days, it's like, what? Like, holy. I think I took a Facebook break because of the madness. And then I poked my little head in onto social media to promote this podcast, and just people were still going on about it. And we've also kind of decided to do like a meme of the week. And our first meme would be this Cardi B with Pepe Le Pew.
They can see it right now.
And yeah, so how that relates to and oh, by the way, if you guys want to send in some memes of your own, or maybe a couple topic suggestions, feel free to message me on my Facebook, Garrett Keeping, or Instagram, keeping_it_metal, keeping_it_metal.
Yeah.
And then harass Adam.
And don't message me.
And send lots of dick pics to Adam. That's
no.
Adam. Anyway, we got to do some housekeeping.
Housekeeping. Okay, the housekeeping is from episode 1.
No, 0.
No, okay, well, we can housekeep for episode 0 and 1 because they recorded at the same time. But
My housekeeping's from 0.
yours is from 0, mine's from 1. So why don't you go first then, because that's from 0. Let's do 0 first. I don't have any housekeeping from 0.
Okay, all I wanted to say was in episode 0, and you should go listen to it because it's awesome. We had said, we were talking about punk rock music being terrible and just shitty musicians that play it. No, I'm just kidding. What it was that we were talking...
Basically the gist.
Oh, Jesus.
That's what I was saying.
I like punk, and I
don't mind all punk. Like, it's not an exclusive thing. It's just, I think in general, that it's shitty music that people who play shitty music like, because that's what they relate to.
And I think a lot of people, like, I would agree, like, that, you know, I've heard that on some upper echelon podcasts with musicians that have said that, you know, a lot of guys start those kind of bands just, and they have, you know, they're not super skilled players, but whatever. The point was is that we were talking about bands that sell out, and I was like, yeah, I like bands that sell out. And just to clarify, what I mean by that is I'm not like right into these big sellout bands, you know, like Nickelback maybe, or some of.
But is that fair?
I don't know.
Is that fair to the term selling out? Because you just literally lowered the term selling out to Nickelback. Really? Right? Like, right. Nickelback, a lot of good bands sold out. And okay, Nickelback, the reason that they suck isn't because they sold out. It's because they decided to basically bought a stamp.
Yeah.
And said, all right, we got a stamp now. And they just kept on stamping out songs.
Right. And exactly.
And they're the same, like you've seen the YouTube videos where they like take multiple songs. And
that. Oh my
so
God.
We're talking about,
it's pretty funny. Like,
some people are formula, and in some cases, it's like, if you don't like the person's tone, or if you don't like the guitarist's style, or if you don't like something, then chances are you're not going to like the whole band, because that person, you're not going to be able to get away from the fact that they're in it. Right. But when a band just simply stamps out music like that,
well,
that's not selling out. That's just being a stamp.
Because, I mean, honestly, like, we could look each other in the eye, and if someone walked through that room, if some record producer knocked on that door and said, Adam, Garrett, we think you're the perfect fit, the perfect personalities for this massive Nickelback style band where you're going to get paid millions of dollars to travel the world and do this, but then not have to work anymore. Your dreams are going to come true. Are you ready? You might have to change your name, but are you in?
I'm in.
Me too.
I'm in, dude. Of course. Because it's not about my art.
I would use that money to
pay for your art.
To pay for my actual art. Okay, so
it's like, maybe can I wear a mask?
or can I have my hair changed by name?
Yeah, because then you can come out of it after and still be yourself. But now you're yourself with money.
Exactly.
Anybody that you've heard of because they quote unquote sold out.
Okay, so
the idea is if you don't have success, then you're encouraged to not have success by thinking that success is somehow bad. Success is the enemy, and
which is ridiculous. Exactly.
People,
and that's what I was trying to say. So I'm for selling out. So I'm saying if a band's playing tiny clubs, grinding their asses off, you know, and like I'm gonna get shit for this, but some of the kind of the Vancouver metal elitism in some ways, like they're just even worldwide elitism, where it's like, I mean, I've even heard once again Jas talk about this on the podcast, like bands just give him shit for you sold out, Hatebreed, you're not New York hardcore enough anymore, and it's like, well, what do you want me to do? Like, so my daughter she's just gonna not go to a good school or not have options or money, like, so what I meant by selling out was
I've never even heard a Hatebreed song, so.
Pardon me.
Well, that's you. But I listened to 95.3 for quite a while.
Well, that's your problem.
I know it is, and I don't. It's my hair's long right now, so I have to listen to Jack.
And I'll stop bringing up Jasta on this podcast. But I apologize.
If Hatebreed sold out, like really sold out, they'd be on 95.3. It'd be like, you know, like fuzzy metal guitar come in with some like poppy drums, and then like the Hatebreed.
Some bands just give shit to these bigger bands for kind of like selling out a little bit and not being like,
because they're bitter that they have more success.
Well, what's wrong with success? But I mean, I remember when Offspring went from Smash. What did they do? They sold out. Green Day kind of sold out. Those are two big bands. Because I remember when Green Day was like Kerplunk days, like when that's like punk rock, like dirty punk. And Offspring, when they released Smash, they were still gritty and grimy. And then they started turning, like it was overnight. I remember seeing Offspring for Smash. And it was an incredible concert. And then the next time they came, it was for Americana, and I walked into the venue, and the whole audience had changed. They were all wearing those big glow stick necklace thing. Like it was weird. It was like overnight they had changed from like this grimy skate punk
to like bubblegum punk.
It was and I was like, went to an Offspring show after Americana. They released that and felt out of place. So I don't know. But anyway, the point is. Yeah. I just wanted to correct what I had said.
It's like everybody's like, hey, you guys want to do this for a living? How about we don't have to be painters and, you know, cook preps and bus drivers and shit like that. Let's just, you know, let's make money. And then there's people that are like, you know what, this is what's marketable. I'm going to tell you here what's marketable. What they're telling you is that they're actually going to fund your project and you're going to do it like this.
Which is brutal.
Well, it might be, but again, you don't have the money, then beggars can't be choosers.
That's right. Well, right? I mean, the drummer of
like, if you don't have the $400,000 to throw in to invest with, or even to, you know, pay for equipment or to whatever the case may be, and somebody else is, then and now it's no longer this art, this creative machine. It's actually a business. It's a business. It's a job.
Yeah. The drummer of Lamb of God actually quit Lamb of God. He was one for the very same things. I think he stated publicly that he's like, I'm not into it anymore. There's some toxicity in the band. Chris Adler, I think he was drummer for Megadeth for a bit, but he told like Lamb of God, you know, he had said that he was sick of the formulas, the same thing over and over, and he wants to go do something different, and he's doing a more low key band, but apparently it's not as good. But that's crazy to me. I mean, I guess you got to put into perspective though. Like, I don't know, like big band. I don't know.
Maybe there's some clause that they're like, if you're going to be in this band, we don't want you to be in other bands or something.
No, he just literally stated that he was sick of the same formulas, sick of writing the same way. And you hear New Lamb of God, they've definitely got a formula they're sticking to, but it's catchy. I don't know. I'm just not approved that way. I wish the
musicians at Tool thought like that.
Pardon me? Well, whatever, right? But here's the thing: we both agree that if Nickelback walked into this room right now,
wanted us to be like a faux Nickelback band.
And we'd do it.
Yeah.
And then we'd put that money into the stuff we really want to do.
Yeah. And if he was like a fat, greasy guy and was like, listen, I've literally got $2 million, one for you and one for you.
But this guy's going to have to suck my dick.
You have to suck my dick at the same time. We'd be like, so like on our knees or?
I have to look at him in the eye?
Yeah. Like, are you going to film it?
You know? I guess I'd be, I don't know. Because I got to get up and go to work tomorrow at 5 a.m. And
yeah, exactly.
Actually, my new job's really nice.
And I'm just finished eating noodle bowl, right?
Yeah, but you had a rad job.
Oh yeah,
till the COVID
wasn't really impacted by COVID.
Came in. Pardon me?
It wasn't really impacted by COVID. It was just the show ended. So that was
but then didn't the whole movies industry shut down?
No, it's back. It's back. It's just me now. I'm just dealing with my own personal poop. Yeah, mostly the withdrawal of.
Which you look great. Like you're chemical. Doing okay.
No, I'm not. But thank you.
Okay, so episode 0 was him talking about his smoking, quitting, and he did a really good job. So you have to go check Episode 0.
Is that good for the housekeeping? Because
that's amazing.
Okay, so next housekeeping. My actual first note, I re-listened to it, and my note's wrong.
How many notes you got?
4.
What?
Why not?
This podcast will be housekeeping.
So my main note then for housekeeping is that I have to preface that neither of us are experts in anything that we're talking about.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right? Like anything. So we
actually no. Speak for yourself, dude.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we'll be saying a lot of things, and we have said a lot of things in the last 1.5 episodes. But
and don't drink the Kool-Aid, guys. Just
we
enjoy
are not experts, so anything that we're incorrect, try not to crucify us too much. But feel free to point out any factual inaccuracies, because we do want to be factual. It's just we are like somewhere in the stupid spectrum. And we're just normal people, and so everything that we say is from the normal people stupid spectrum, and it's bound to have factual inaccuracies. The one thing that my first note was that Zio Sedra was Sumerian. I listened to it again, and I didn't say that he wasn't, right? I thought I claimed that he was Zoroastrian when it's Yima that's the Zoroastrian, but I couldn't remember Yima at the time. The other thing was that I said invertebrate a lot. And
I remember you talking about this.
I did, and I edited it out.
And so the two words different. Okay, two words that sound the same.
Let's clarify
different meanings.
for you mostly because I feel bad that I was steering you wrong for the most part.
Yeah, you're filling with false information. You should be canceled, you fucking asshole.
Yeah. So vertebrate, right? Something with a spine.
Invertebrate.
Something that does not have a spine.
Vertebrate spine. Invertebrate.
Spine.
No spine.
Yeah. So after, I was using it interchangeably, for some reason, because I was tired or whatever. I'll blame tired.
Well,
the other thing I mixed up.
This won't care.
Is I mixed up Bob Lazar when I was talking about Bob Lazar, and stating how thorough I was on researching Bob Lazar.
That right there. Let's take notes here.
Oh, I've already got one right here. UFOs and Lazar.
That's a podcast topic.
Yeah.
Great.
I mixed up the stories of Richard Feynman and Bob Lazar, and that was really dumb. Right? So Bob Lazar was not the person who was writing the codes to his wife back and forth.
Right.
That was the factual inaccuracy.
Your theory on that is actually really fucking interesting. I'll try not to swear so much either, but you'll probably.
I don't. No, I'm not. You swear as you want, man. This is not for children.
Bob Lazar.
They're not going to get this shit anyway. I mean, we don't get it. Adults don't get it.
That's it. Yeah, your theory about that, he was just tricked. But I don't know. I'd have to just kind of agree. I mean, like I said, I believe in Bigfoot, and you don't. Anyway.
Well, I don't believe in anything. That's, again, another belief and probability. Belief versus probability is another subject. That's next.
That was supposed to be this podcast, but that'll be next.
Yep. This is, again, anyway, the other thing that...
This is a hybrid episode.
Just to be clear... Richard Feynman was the person who wrote the notes to his wife in CODIS, and Lazar was not. The rest of the Lazar story, I believe, when I was listening to it, I didn't have any other dissonance. But with the invertebrate part, I was like, did I just say invertebrate? And I listened to it again, and I'm like, oh, God, that was dumb. So I wrote down here, thinking I'm going to have to bring this up, because it's dumb to say. Sense. And then... we continue to say it literally like 20 times, back and forth.
So when you mean like you?
No, both of us. Because even you're like at one point you're like invertebrate, and I'm like yeah. When I should have clued in at that point. No, actually, what are we talking about? It's vertebrate. Duh. But I didn't. Right. So then we just kept on saying it back and forth as we're talking about fucking fish versus octopus.
And that's when everyone turned the podcast off.
And that's when everybody turned it off. No, because I edited it out. I then was like, I can't let that pass. So I literally edited out the in part so that we just say vertebrate. It doesn't matter. I don't mind admitting to it. Like funny. you're gonna hear like little pops. Yeah, it'll be so then you're vertebrate. No, I've been doing sound editing for a long time.
Whatever.
I wasn't super thorough, but you don't have to be super thorough to be fairly seamless. Anyway, the other thing that I noticed is that when we were talking about simian creatures being the ape, talking about the brains and the prion disease,
right?
We both morphed between simian and symbiont.
Oh, Jesus,
Right?
Adam.
And
What's the
so-
difference between those ones? No, I'm not this smart. I'm
Well,
working
a
on them.
simian is like an ape, and symbionts is like symbiotic relationships.
Oh,
When you have like some type of a mutually beneficial relationship with another organism where you rely on each other. But
yes.
you know,
This I understand.
so anyway, that was the other thing, and it's not a big deal. But while I was editing, that was what I was noticing and going, geez, that's really kind of dumb. But while we're talking, and this is also why I don't want to do a live stuff right away, because
Live will come. That's
live will
interesting.
come. But at this point, even if we're right, if we're wrong, doesn't matter. I have to go through it all. Right.
I imagine lots of people have been wrong.
Like,
on
did
their-
you?
Pardon?
You listened to episode 0 all the way through.
Yes,
All the way through.
twice.
Okay.
Just
so
to
then
see if I
episode
sound
1
like
is
an
now
idiot
up
and I don't.
for you to listen to. If you want to listen to episode 1, you can. But again, it's 2.5 hours.
Yeah, that's a long time.
It is. And now I've listened to it like 9 times. Right.
That's a lot.
It is, and I probably shouldn't even admit to that. I should say that I only listened to it quickly once. I combed that fucking thing.
Listen, man, this is a craft. This is a skill, and we'll get better at it, and then we'll get more confident, and then we'll do live. I mean, this is the third time.
There's tons of mistakes. Like, there's actually tons of factual inaccuracies that I left in, and then I didn't note because they don't matter. A, and B, it's also red herrings, right? Like, it
and
gives
if they
the audience.
bother people, then like I said,
Let
just
us know.
Let us know.
That's where people
there's the
bitching
Facebook
at us
page,
is
questioning
actually-
everything. You'll get in touch with us when we become super big stars because of this podcast. It might be harder to get a hold of us, but we'll still be listening.
Yeah, for now we still have our phone numbers right on the website. We're like, somebody please, God's sakes, call us and
Tell us how much we suck. I mean, we claimed this podcast doesn't suck on Facebook, so
and that was literally it. So aside from that, aside from just like general factual inaccuracies,
He's telling me not to
Shake
flip
your
my
leg.
I'm on a lot of caffeine right now. My bad.
yeah, no, I feel it, but
Anyway, continue.
it'll just aside from just general factual inaccuracies because I found like what but it's totally reasonable within the realm of what we can be expected to be as far as accurate goes, you know. And it's like funny, like, you know, like the earth plane is a turntable or whatever the fuck the theory was, stuff like that.
Do a flat earth episode. I'm a flat earther now.
Are you? Oh, I'd love to do a flat earth episode with
No.
you.
I'm not a flat earther.
Too bad. We can find one.
We should totally do that.
We got to find one.
I believe
Take the
one of
piss
the
out of them,
members
of
of
course, the whole time,
Deftones
but-
is a flat earther.
That's
Not
amazing.
that, I mean, I don't know. I'm the metal guy here, I guess, but I'm sure that's incorrect too in some people's eyes. I don't know. But anyway,
yeah, you don't cut yourself in the morning.
that's
So
right.
You're not that metal.
That's
You
right.
don't eat
See?
raw chicken. You cook your eggs like a pussy.
I eat them.
Yeah. You don't nail your testicles to a board before you shave them.
I don't paint my face in white corpse paint.
Okay, so speaking of cancel culture, because we just got canceled.
Okay.
Cancel culture.
Are you done?
I'm done with housekeeping.
I think we could housekeep every couple episodes and we'd be okay if we really eventually won't have
maybe,
to. Who knows?
or just not take however long that was. I can't even see 20 minutes. We just did 20 minutes of housekeeping because we just.
But it was interesting though.
Yeah, no, it's great. So
Here we
cancel
go.
culture.
Cancel culture, the left versus the right.
What is it?
Adam is going to bore the crap out of me with his politics here because I'm just going to state like out loud that shamelessly, politics are not my thing. I know a lot of people we know personally that are like real smart on it, argue it in depth and very articulately on.
We're not going to do that on this podcast.
I'm just not going to be able to like.
Well, and that eliminates the need for a conversation, right? Because it's not. No, I'm not here to like be like the world according to Adam. We
No.
don't. As far as left versus right, hammering that out a little bit isn't the worst idea because it's kind of like the playing field that we are living in right now on social media, and cancel culture, for whatever reason, seems prevalent these days.
Prevalent, but it's also been something that's been happening. So it's been brought to my attention that lots of people have been, things have been canceled for a long time. We forgot about Duck Dynasty. Remember when that came out? That was a sensation on, everyone loved Duck Dynasty. You may not have, but it was huge. You could get their shirts in Walmart. It was a big deal. And then they found out that the grandpa or whatever was racist. And so it was
you
gone.
You don't say.
Right. Okay, but like he was.
That's like those Wealth Simple commercials that are like, I just heard that people are investing in stocks, and I had to look into it.
Oh,
like you seriously? This chick is 27 years old on the YouTube ad. You literally just discovered that people were. Come on.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, maybe that's a terrible example. Well, no, that's not a terrible example because I remember when that happened and it was like, oh, whatever, no big deal. But But here's the difference, folks. I don't believe Facebook was as huge or social media for that matter was as huge now, or wasn't very. I don't even think it was existent then, really.
Duck
I can't
Dynasty?
remember when Duck Dynasty came out. It was like 8, 9, 10 years ago.
It seems super recent to me.
It's not that recent. You should
seems
Google
super
it.
Recent.
But here's the thing:
like we definitely had social media back then.
We did, but it wasn't. I don't think. But like it isn't like it is now, though.
From like 20 years ago.
But my point is,
it wasn't like it is.
There's been a lot of things being canceled. Obviously, people they've been. When you're blatantly racist or blatantly a rapist or a blatantly...
Yeah. I'm going to agree with you. And it's like I see your dollar that you just above the ante. And I'm going to raise you like 99 more.
Okay.
Because Duck Dynasty is really recent. And
I'm Googling it.
Cancel culture is...
Forever.
Yeah. Like forever.
That's just a poor example, I guess.
Ever.
When did Duck Dynasty air?
Cancel culture is old. Like if you just depends on how you define it, right? Like
March, so 2012. So it's almost 10 years old.
Jordan Peterson would probably spank me because the theory of cancel culture isn't that old, right?
It is not.
And so the debate about cancel culture and the term cancel culture, but that's kind of like the term conspiracy theorist, where conspiracy theorist is a fairly modern term for something that has been occurring for a long time, people theorizing about conspiracies.
Okay, maybe I just haven't been on Facebook that much in the last 10 years and more or less recently. But all I want to say before you continue is you are correct.
Yeah.
So, but what I believe, social media amplifies all of these arguments. That's the biggest problem right now. Because if we're sitting in a restaurant with 5 or 6 of the people that are like, cancel Pepe Le Pew or cancel this, if we were all sitting together in a room, it wouldn't be a topic, a major debate, I don't think necessarily. I think that obviously social media, Facebook, all these, particularly Facebook, really just amplifies this argument. And it's where people can just be so shitty to each other and just say all kinds of messed up stuff. And that's sad. But cancel culture, yes, it's been around for a long time.
Well, yeah, and I don't actually believe in cancel culture, to be honest with you.
Well, what about Dr. Seuss books being canceled was like, that
doesn't qualify. So the closest thing to cancel culture that really starts to qualify and that starts to get a little bit squirrely is when you hear of people not just getting deplatformed, but actually having their monetary income systems like PayPal blocking them. And when you get like, and there's a fine line where you have like hardcore Nazi people that want to publish stuff and they get barred, and it's reasonable, it's fine, nobody really complains. But somebody who just simply has something to say that PayPal doesn't like or Visa doesn't like or somebody else doesn't like, and then having their platform literally entirely demonetized, like from the bank up, that's when it starts to get squirrely.
Well,
as far as like,
that's an example of who that happened to, because like what's
even
his name?
Somebody,
the dude from Hollywood from the Me Too.
I don't know. I heard it happened to Sargon. Sargon might be a bad example.
Who's
because
Sargon?
A lot of these people are borderline radical, or they don't. Even if they're not radical, they have a good base of radical followers, right? But the question really remains: at what point does it justify intervention from companies? At what point does a company's ideology mean that they should be, enforcing some or creating even some community standard or something like that in order to deplatform or silence people? As far as Pepe Le Pew getting silenced or
that's ridiculous.
Something like that is
silly because like here's
mostly
the thing.
companies making their own decisions.
So something happened with like Dr. Seuss. So they're like, everyone was like, and the problem too, like, and I'm a victim of this because I shared these memes and I shared these articles. They're clickbaity. Dr. Seuss gets canceled, racist, this, that, and the other thing, and you're like, oh, and you want to share it, but when you actually read the article, you'll find that it was only 6 books that were discontinued as being public. And
it wasn't anything to do with cancel culture.
Not necessarily. They're just going to stop publishing 6 certain books because they are a bit racist. If you look at the pages, it's kind of like, oh shit. But they didn't get rid of Dr. Seuss or Cat in the Hat, The Grinch. Like a lot of those are all still going. But I know you have a good point here coming up. No. But with the thing with Pepe Le Pew that drives me nuts is a lot of people, you post it on Facebook and everyone's like, why would you post this? You're just contributing to the distraction. There's other things happening in the world like bombings and starvation, and that is true. But I also feel that some of these things are setting a precedent for, you know, a lot of issues like that could come up.
That's part of the bait.
That's the bait. Like cancel the Bible then, I guess. Cancel.
No, but part of the bait is that it's meant to elicit an emotional reaction in you.
And it did, and I had to get away from it. And I hope we remember that. Right? Pepe Le Pew, like people are like, why are you clinging on to this character that's like a nostalgic blah 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 blah?
Pretty cringy.
Well, it's how cringy is it? It's a cat that bumps into a wall or it bumps into something. A white paint falls on it, and it becomes a skunk. And Pepe Le Pew is mistaking this cat for a skunk. So that's why he's going after it. She's repelling him because he's a skunk. He's going after her because he thinks she's a cat. So that to me just sort of cancels out the whole idea of like how inappropriate he is, I guess. It's just so stupid that we're even talking about it, but it is interesting.
I don't know. I think Pepe Le Pew is really cringy, personally.
Oh, really? Like,
absolutely.
My friends,
they're anthropomorphized animals for one, so we're not just talking about
man.
Yeah, but you're trying to minimize the impact for no good reason, really. Like, I don't agree with cancel culture, but I'm not going to minimize the impact of rapey, cringy shit, right?
Yeah, and
Watch it. Who's
watching?
Like, have you not watched it recently? Watch it. You're literally talking about, like, animals in nature hold each other down and force sex if they can. They really do. Animal humans, before we were civilized, we did the same thing, and people are still
like cavemen banging the cave woman,
doing it today,
dragging her into the cave,
or cavemen banging the caveman because he's close, right? And he's bigger, and a hole is a hole.
Hole's a hole.
Either way, right? It's just like the whole enforcement of your own lusts on somebody else is cringy. Pepe Le Pew is a cartoon.
Them, I guess.
He is being incredible. Like, she's doing everything she can to get out of his grip.
Yeah, but he's like, mon ami, but why can't you resist me?
Yeah, honestly, like that.
Playful. It's not like, get over here, you little cat.
It's like she needs to know the softest place under his chin to put the point of the knife before she puts it into his head. Because that's what women should do to guys like that.
Well, yeah, if in real life. Okay, and here's another thing we got to remember.
Against the soft part of his under chin and push until he stops, and he'll stop. Guarantee you, he'll stop.
You know, I was reading over the shoulder of a 3-year-old the other day.
Sorry,
you're hilarious.
That was extreme, but
whatever. I mean, but hey, that's how you feel, and people feel that way, and I can totally see where you're coming from. I don't think you're wrong. I totally agree and see where people are coming from. I disagree somewhat. I think I think it's a bit silly. Like, I remember watching Pepe Le Pew when I was a kid, and I was just like, this character sucks. Like, where's the Tasmanian Devil? Where's fucking Martin the Martian?
Okay, let's just say.
But I have to clear something up because I said I was reading over the shoulder of a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
I was at a meeting the other day, and someone had brought their child. There's a 3-year-old kid, right? Just a little dude. And he wasn't even... I was looking at him like, he's on the phone there watching stuff because mom's busy, and he's got to stay distracted. And he wasn't even watching any cartoons. I asked him, I said, do you like Scooby-Doo? He's like, nah, I don't like Scooby-Doo, whatever. He's watching these fruit face things talking. Like, it's the weirdest stuff. So... my point is, I don't even think these kids are watching Pepe Le Pew anyway, or most Looney Tunes.
No, the kids almost have no idea. But at the same time, you are creating normalizations, right?
I get it.
Or stereotypes or whatever, stuff like that. Now, in the case of like Pepe Le Pew, Was it like silence culture? Was it people complaining against Pepe Le Pew that caused them to do it, or did they do it themselves? I don't know. Because if they did it themselves,
sorry, say it again.
Was it like pressure from third parties complaining to the company to Warner
who started? Well, it's like Twitter people are just like.
But was it because Mr. Potato Head, they changed it themselves?
That got retracted though.
I think Mr. Potato Head's even stupider. Really?
Well, I bought into. Oh yeah, and then there was even a Grease one. There was the movie The Grease. Someone had said. Someone had said,
cancel Grease.
They were. Well, I know, but the fact is that it was an article that was poorly written. But it's But there were people that were like. There was out of 1,000 comments in the Grease post on the Grease article, out of 1,000, like 4 of them were like some chick or some person that was like, "This is cringy and gross and it should be canceled." The vast majority of people are like, "Grow up, people!" Like, give me.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, no, absolutely. I think the vast majority of people would be like, "Why don't we just not watch it?"
Well, the vast majority of people are choked about Pepe Le Pew. Like,
why not we being
canceled? Not.
Yeah, like, do we even need to know that the Dr. Seuss books are no longer being printed? Because that's really what it amounts to.
That pertains to your argument, though, of the cultural evolution. Like, are we gonna, like, I was taught, someone had said, I can't remember where I read this, but someone had said, like, if you read those books and you were a black kid or an Asian child, that you'd be reading these books and it would put you in an awkward position. You'd be like, why, like...
Absolutely, because you feel like it's talking about you.
That's
and the
right.
representation in that book is not good.
That's not fair.
No, it's definitely not fair. So pull it. But why do we even need to know? Why is this even? Why do we even know?
Okay, so that
I don't follow Dr. Seuss.
Well, I like to think
you don't follow Dr. Seuss either.
Well, not really, but I do like that book. The Mulberry Street.
You don't
book.
follow Dr. Seuss.
No, I don't.
You don't follow anything they do. You don't follow any of the
publications. I had an emotional reaction to it.
You never cared. You didn't ever care about Dr. Seuss until somebody wanted you to care, and they elicited an emotional reaction with an article.
And then they went and bombed.
Totally designed to piss you off, and it worked. Like, yeah, I know. Right? And you're aware of that. But the thing is that we didn't even need to know about it. Nobody canceled it. Cancel culture.
So then what are they doing?
Is a hype about something that almost doesn't exist.
So that's what my friend had said.
When it does exist.
Shout out to fucking Oak.
When it does exist, it exists in a lot of ways. Like the right now, and this is back to our main subjects, right and left. The right, which is usually traditionally fundamental Christian.
Okay, so sorry. Yeah, so the far right, the far right?
Yeah, let's just say the center is the ideal neutral person.
Okay.
The center is the ideal neutral.
Fair enough.
Now, the left and the right are divided by multiple things.
Personalities.
No.
Personality structures.
No.
Well, there's
No. It's just ideologies at this point, right? Mostly. But they're divided by a lot of things. But traditionally now, in social spheres, you've got traditional Christian conservatism on the right, and you've got almost normal people on the left.
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm not kidding you.
No, I agree.
Like the vast majority of people. And now this is fiery water, because what's dominating in today's culture is actually different than that. But like, say 20 years ago, you and I, no question whether or not we would have been left. 20 years ago, no question. No question, dude. Look at my hair. I got long hair. You think you're neutral, but a person on the right would have been like, "No, trust me, buddy, you're a leftist. Like you're like a step away from Marxism to them, right? You're radical, you're a hippie."
And so I would say the same thing to a hardcore right. Like I'd be like, "What? Fundamental Christian?" Like, like what?
They like use a ruler to get their hair parted. Perfectly.
Sleeping in separate beds when you're married, like, huh?
Sleeping in separate beds until you're married would be like, yeah, so.
Like,
right?
not having this.
Whereas we would be like, well, how do you know what you're getting?
And hold on, let me just make sure. Like, this political structure is like Western, right? This isn't obviously. This is American.
This is Western.
I know. I may sound stupid. Just bear with me, okay?
It's Western.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What about
But the left and the right now you've got extremes, right? Where the extreme left is really kind of like postmodern Marxists, people with really really extreme ideas of like that. It's the left used to be liberal and the right was conservative. The left is no longer liberal even. Like they've actually literally gotten out of liberalism, and now the right are the only people who even really encompass liberalism. By liberalism, I mean like the thing that made all of the neutral countries in the world good, the thing that makes us good, democracy, and stuff,
is now being split.
It's actually the left is moving outside of it now, and the left is starting to encompass a far more radical version of the left, to the point where people like you and me, who are like kind of left, you know, we're into skateboarding, we're into rock and roll, we're
motorcycles.
You've done more
chicks.
Yeah, you've done more drugs than somebody that's a right winger. Right? Like a traditional right winger.
Drugs. What are you talking about?
We've literally lived lifestyles of what you would consider in the 60s for sure to be like total like bohemian left. Right? But we would be perceived in social media today as probably being right wing.
Well, like that's the problem.
You're first of all, you're male and you're white and you've got tattoos. So, and you're like not opposed to like joining something. What'd you say?
What?
Or
I joined a men's group.
Men's group. Okay, so let's just say we don't have to name it. Let's just say a men's group. Now you're even a part of a men's group. So
but it's for men that have been emotionally like.
Yeah, but you're like center. You're right of center to just to the assumption.
I get
most
it.
people.
Okay, but what I'm gonna say, like to me, it's like it's a men's group about empowering men with healthy masculinity.
Which it doesn't exist.
Let's stop.
That
being
literally
like,
does not exist. If you're like a radical feminist today,
oh, I know. That's
literally does not exist
to me, man. Like men have been like. There's a lot of men that have been,
but feminism
beaten down emotionally, dudes, and
feminism began as a liberal civil rights movement, and it is now ending outside of liberalism. Outside of the ideas and the tenets of liberalism, they're really getting into the Marxism. Same with the BLM.
Okay, wait, what is Marxism's, dude?
Marxism's communism. Marxism's early Russian communism, right? So Marxism's even before communism in Russia became really prevalent, because then it became more Lenin, Stalin thing. They changed the ideologies to their own purpose, and Marx even at the time wasn't super happy with it. But Marxism is essentially the core of communism, redistribution of wealth, the idea that the people should be the benefactor,
right? And that isn't so bad if you think about it. But corporations,
it's not so bad at all.
Capitalism isn't necessarily working. Like, let's say. Capitalism, I think that everyone should have the right to make a good amount of money and do their thing, but don't you think that at some point...
And they have it in capitalism.
Yes, but don't you think there should be a point where you make, like, where you have a giant freaking house, you own 4 cars, a private jet, you can have anything you want, any girl, anything, you've done it, you've made it. Isn't there a point now where it's just, okay, let's put it in cruise control and give back to someone who's suffering, man.
The thing is
communism's good in some ways, and capitalism.
That's not true at all. I totally disagree.
I don't really know enough.
I'd say that the funny thing is that people communism.
Go
back to 1900, right? Communism's let's go back to, or even after that, like the Bolshevik thing, or if you go back to the root of communism, and you say, let's just say communism replaces capitalism. From that point on, we literally wouldn't be having this conversation. We wouldn't have these Yeti mics or these computers.
Why not?
Because this is a result of capitalism, right?
Okay,
mics didn't even exist.
A balance.
Microphones like this didn't even exist. USB didn't exist. The only reason we have computers and USB and all this sorts of shit is because capitalism actually rewards ingenuity. It rewards invention and moving forward, and it's really a technological revolution that is fueled by the opportunity to profit from it. And if you take away that opportunity to profit, there's no incentive to do it. And that's what communist countries don't get. And if they try to get communist, the first thing they're going to lose is all the incentive to innovate.
Not entirely though, because you just said that part of communism was giving back to was distribution of wealth.
But there's no wealth.
Okay, so you need to integrate.
That's the problem.
Okay, I know.
You just took away all the wealth.
I understand.
So it doesn't matter.
I'm saying there should
right?
be wealth, but it should be at a point where we're not in extreme wealth and extreme poverty. I'm saying you should have the concept of giving back and spreading the wealth out. So yeah, we should be able to go out there and achieve and make those microphones and make those computers. But there should be a point where like I don't need billions and billions of dollars while other people have nothing.
That's great. So don't have it.
I think there needs to be some sort of like meter, like who needs an island where they can go and fucking like I don't know.
But the left versus right. The thing is that censorship is almost a baby of the right. Right. So right now there's a tendency for the right to complain. Pepe Le Pew's canceled, the Potato Head's canceled.
The potato, it's a gender thing, but that once again, that article is so clickbaity.
It's cancel culture. The term cancel culture was created by, as far as I'm aware, by the right, and if it hasn't, then it's certainly been perpetuated by the right.
How long's it been around then?
To describe the left, right? Well, as far as the discussion goes, the discussion's super new. Before the discussion, we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years of the right canceling the left. Now we've got like a year of the left canceling the right, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, right? So essentially the left have learned from the right how to get together and cancel people because the Christian right-wing Christian coalition created cancel culture in North America. Like they patented the formulas on how to bullshit people and round them up and get them opposed to things. Right?
Like,
there's like lists.
That's the mob mentality thing.
There's
right?
like lists of shit that the Christian coalition have tried to cancel.
And there's another problem.
We would have mass censorship. The fact that the left was a liberal for the last, say, 80 years, the fact that the left was liberal and that is the base people, absolutely most of the people, and they've prevented everything from being banned. They've done their best, We have censorship on TV, but it's reasonable. You have some censorship where it's like, okay, well, you're not allowed to, get like this book by this anti-Semitic guy, but you're still allowed to get Mein Kampf by Hitler, right? Like you're still allowed to get books that are super questionable because liberalism requires freedom of information. Now today, the liberal movement or the left, as you could really call it, because these aren't like liberal people. This is just the left. So it's probably the smallest amount of people, but they're making the most noise. And they're trying to control what people can be exposed to based off of what they consider to be values. And the left, as far as liberals, should have learned the lesson over the last multiple hundred years of the Vatican to the Church of England to your local church to your local Christian Karen who or the people in the schools who like take out the ruler when a girl wears a skirt to make sure that it's the right length of distance between.
Why are all the Catholic girls wearing little skirts anyway? Isn't that a bit weird? Anybody?
It's totally weird, dude.
Like, isn't that like I have a big Catholic school by my house. I've taken buses, or you're driving by or whatever, and you see all these little girls out there, and they're freaking.
It's gonna get it, but
it's strange. You're like, why lower that skirt down and past your knees? Then, God-fearing.
Yep.
That's odd to me. There's little things like that, like, and then like even just like the fact that Catholic priests we've heard that they've been molesting boys because you're supposed to stay, no sex. Mm-hmm. So if there's no sex, then we'll molest little boys. I mean, it's just everything's so backwards and doesn't make sense to me. Yeah,
and it's literally fucking up people's lives because of what they think are ideals. Yeah. The religious right is truly the ideologue of the last millennia, for sure. And it's really since the history of North America, the Christian church has been the ideologue who has enforced their own value system on absolutely everybody else, regardless of what they might think.
Yeah, to the point where they'll murder and
Sure.
kill and.
Yep. No, yeah, sure. And
Which brings me back to saying, hey, let's cancel the Bible.
so with the left versus right, the most interesting thing is that I don't think, like, say the people that we know, I don't think that those people count in those terms anymore. Like they would have, say, if you retrospectively, like, let's just say we go back to the gazebo days.
Oh,
right?
wow. I remember those
We're
days.
all harsh lefties.
Yeah, we're all
Right.
hippies
We're all
up
hippies.
uptown playing our guitars.
Yeah. We're also stupid. We're dumb.
Well, no, there's
Right.
potential there. We're all questioning and reading books, and
But it's the
we're
old saying,
inquisitive hippies.
if you're not a liberal in your 20s, then you have no heart. And if you're not a conservative in your 30s, then you have no brains. It's easy for people who have nothing to think, to be generous with other people's money and to be generous philosophically with how we think the system should be run. Again, saying that there should be a cap on money. Well, that's easy for you to say because you're now talking about somebody else's money. And interestingly enough, once we get into the principles, the mechanics, if we have the ability to limit how much money a person can make, who gets to choose that? And what's the limits on the people that are choosing?
The Great Reset gets to choose that. You will own nothing, and you will be happy.
And you will be happy.
Things will be delivered to you by drone. Like what?
So
The
maybe
new
even 2
world
years ago,
order.
3 years ago,
Order.
people would have counted more as left and right. But nowadays, I honestly think if we were to sit down, just like pick 5 random people that you and I both know together and sit them down, only a couple of them would actually display the traits that are now being displayed by either to the left or the right, right? Because the right's like, again, people consider me right wing, and I actually identify as being center right, right?
As long as you don't identify as a
The people who think that they're left now only think that they're leftist or rightist because of previous identifications to things. If they realized where the path was going, then they'd be like, oh, actually, I'm not about that. No, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not into that.
Yeah.
Like, if it comes down to like, you're not opposed to gay marriage,
I'm not opposed to gay
and
marriage.
no, of course not. But like,
No, I know.
the people
but
on the
these
left
are
would
just
think,
obvious things.
you know, you think, well, I'm not opposed to gay marriage and I'm not opposed to abortion, so I must be a lefty, right?
So why do we have to label it then? What are you, Adam? Like deep down, like what do you?
Well, the labels,
What do you want to
the
see?
labels are all incredibly wrong. That's the problem. Is that they're mislabeled, because being left and right politically has nothing to do with any of this shit. Left and right politically has nothing to do with social issues. It's about how you manage. It's different approaches to government administration. It's different approaches to the relationship between the government and the people. And ultimately, we're all liberal. Conservatives are liberal and liberals are liberal. At least when you compare it to like monarchy or communism or fascism. Or,
like,
you know, like when it comes right down to it, democracy is
okay. So
perfect,
tell me what a Proud Boy is technically. Like, what are these Proud Boys all about?
The Proud Boys are like a pro men's movement. That, that
so they're far left or they're far right, aren't they?
Well, they're perceived as far right by the left. As far as like, if you were to again sit in the center and try to figure out where everybody is, if you identify the far right as say more for about institutions, more about whereas you've got institutions versus people. Maybe you could get prisons or churches or governments, or it's just the idea that institutions should have more authority than people, or the idea that people should have more more authority than, you know. But again, when it comes right down to it, like the left ideology is used against people in order to convince them of socialism and communism, which are in fact kind of like righty principles, because they take away the people's ability to be the people that they are, right? It's like, you know, you no longer can criticize your government. You no longer can.
Well, that's bad.
Once you get into authoritarianism,
Dictatorships,
or
right?
totalitarianism, where, well, when you boil socialism down and when you boil communism down, what you end up with is like in modern day, in the future, we're aiming towards a technocracy as a model of communism.
What's that?
Where we don't
this
vote
is the
for
reset.
people.
This is the reset. Now we're moving into the reset idea.
Well, this is basically like it's similar to Chinese structure, right? Where you don't have democracy, you don't actually vote for people, and you don't have proportional representation or anything. Democracy's thrown out the window, liberalism's thrown out the window, and instead, rather than being a nation of free individual people who then vote for their representation, the nation itself kind of takes on it grows the vertebrate, it grows it grows a spine, and becomes the MO of the people, where
so
I'm doing a horrible job.
Artificial intelligence takes over, basically.
No, it's just the relationship between the government and the people. Most of us, and like the founders of both of our nations, U.S. and Canada, were more or less libertarian, where they wanted less government intercession. They wanted less, like at that point, the government was the British government. But both of our countries.
But the founding fathers, like their ideals were actually pretty good, weren't they?
They were
like,
great.
Yeah, America is like not even about its like.
And we've drifted to it right now, right?
Drifted to what? Drifted away from it.
Drifted away from it. That's very much an individualism, because they were trying to get away from collectivism. Now we're trying to go back to collectivism. But the weird part is that on the left, people are being influenced. Their perception is being kind of manipulated to accept
social media for that.
collectivism while believing that they're actually accepting individualism, right? Because it has a lot to do with like civil rights movements, and that's why like say the Marxists have really glommed onto the BLM movement, and it's even something like UBI. UBI is creepily universal basic income. Creepily Marxist.
How does that work even? Like,
it's just the whole idea, though, that the government's responsibility is to take care of you and should be providing for you
a basic income, but then you could still go out and work, though, right?
You're like a child now with an allowance. Yeah, you can go to work, and here's your allowance.
You can go to work, but you also get an allowance. Isn't that how it works? Or is
Absolutely.
That's kind of cool, though, isn't it? Like if I get $1,000 every 2 weeks plus I go to work,
I don't know.
I can afford shit.
I don't agree that it's cool.
Why?
Well, because
where does that money come from, though?
That's
where are they
the
going to
problem.
Yeah, that's
right?
what I don't understand.
That's the problem. So
then we go into debt.
The whole idea is that it's a redistribution of funds. Where
okay,
it's like,
so that's what we're talking. So this is what I'm saying. So those massive dudes with the big houses and the giant jets and all the girls, the $1,000 a week comes from them.
Well, that's
every 2 weeks.
That's where it comes from anyway, right? The difference is that I would want it to be coming from them from a reasonable and fair means, whereas
what's
the distribution
reasonable and fair means to you?
Like just an income tax. You pay income tax, it's a reasonable income tax, right?
Well, they don't get taxed as much as we do, which is fucked, right?
I personally happen to agree.
With that?
Yeah, absolutely.
But you can't tax the rich, apparently, based on some of the things. I was watching some...
Well, the problem is that the more money you make, the more you can pay an accountant to find you tax loopholes, but also the more tax loopholes you qualify for, which isn't necessarily the worst thing. But in my utopia, everybody would pay a flat tax rate, and that would be it.
And then the rich would pay the poor $1,000 every 2 weeks.
No.
That's my utopia.
Yeah, it's because you want the $1,000, and that's.
Well, I'm gonna go work too, though. I'm gonna go work as well.
Where the population gets sucked into it, right? Is like the first thing that any wise person should be weary of is somebody who offers you your money back, right?
Okay, sorry, say that again. I interrupted you.
Somebody you should be looking out for is somebody who offers you your money back. As a voter, you are paying taxes for a good reason. We have welfare, right? I'm okay with, say, increasing welfare, triple, quadruple it, literally, right? So that
then you're gonna get a lot of people
it benefits
that don't do
me.
Anything, man.
You go, really? I don't agree. I'm the conservative And I literally don't agree with that. I don't agree that abuse is prevalent enough to not help people.
Okay, wait, what?
I don't think that abuse is prevalent enough not help people.
What kind of abuse?
Well, you just said that people will do nothing. Or
I feel that so I feel like if you tripled welfare is like $750 a month, dude. It's fucking astronomically like low.
Yeah.
So if you quadrupled it, I feel that there is a percentage of people that would just sit there and wither away on it.
Okay, so what about UBIs 2000? So what if you trip UBIs 2000?
What's that?
Universal basic income.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
So that's what they're basically suggesting is 2000. So if everybody got 2000 a month, then that's really barely lower.
I'm saying, well, with universal, it's the same thing as universal basic income. Like, obviously, if you give people that kind of like,
nobody can live off UBI though.
Pardon me?
Nobody can live off UBI.
Well, no one
so you're not making anybody any lazier. My opposition to UBI is in that now everybody's going to be lazy.
I'm not saying everyone. I'm saying that you start giving free money to people. There's going to be
not free money.
Well,
start giving their money back to them in ways that are manipulative and coercive, so that you're really fooling them. Yeah.
I see. What you're saying.
Yeah, that's really it. And so that you're forming a different type of a relationship rather than free people who are independent and who are expected to be self-sufficient with a safety net just in case if you do slip, because we all slip and you need a safety net. And I'm okay with social programs, but again, I prefer to triple welfare and redefine EI and not even humor something like UBI, because UBI is, again, it's a difference, but it's not. It's the difference in relationship. UBI says that the government is responsible for you as a person and that they have to give you this money as an allowance, right?
Okay.
Once the government's responsible for you as a person, it's like a guardianship, right?
Okay.
You know what guardians get to do? They get to decide things for you.
I guess. Well, does that mean you sign a contract saying that, okay, if I get this...
People who need it probably will.
So the
if you don't need it,
EI,
then it's not going to affect you.
So you're saying not everybody would be on EI then? You're saying you'd say quadruple the welfare?
Of course.
No, so you'd have to still apply for these things.
You'd still have to apply for EI. You'd still have to apply for welfare. Yeah.
How long would you be getting it for?
And then you wouldn't be wasting also money on wealthy people, because if you get $1,000 and I get $1,000, it goes straight back into the economy. Instantly.
Because you're going to spend it.
You're going to spend it.
Toothpaste.
If a person that makes $450,000 gets an extra $1,000, then that just means that they buy an extra $1,000 of stocks. It goes straight into their portfolio, because they don't need that money. They're not going to spend it. It's not going to be like, oh no, they could have gotten everything they wanted anyway. No, it just goes into their portfolio. So the
rich people get universal.
And you have to give it to rich people as well. Otherwise, it's really strange. Like
So why can't universal? We just, once you're up past a certain amount of, like, I don't know. So it just really wouldn't work. Like I make $5 million a year,
but it's a relationship.
$5 million a year. So now that I'm capped out at $5 million or $1 billion a year. Let's say.
Why would you cap somebody?
I'm just saying. So anything above that goes to so that rich dude doesn't get his UBI check.
The reason why that wouldn't work is that anybody who made a lot of money would leave your country. I'm not kidding.
They do. That's what they do anyway. Kidding. I mean, that's what people they leave anyway.
A lot of the money that people make in the history of, in the like 21st century has been rooted to places like the Cayman Islands because of tax laws. Yeah, right. Well, when the U.S. is like, we need to tax everybody at 75%, they're really only taxing like the lowest margin of that tax bracket, whereas all the highest margin, they're going to figure out a way to get the money out of the tax system. Okay, so rather than pay the tax.
Do you believe, what do you think? You think people should be making like Bill Gates, for example? The guy makes, he's just worth trillions.
Yep.
Do you actually, here on a side note, do you think that those conspiracies are true? Like, out of curiosity, Adam, like that he's like trying to fucking vaccinate the world and chip everybody, and he's fucking up.
I don't think he's evil. No.
Yeah.
I think he's Google.
He's what?
He's Google.
What's Google?
He's worse than evil. He's a progressive, and a progressive.
Wait a minute.
Is somebody?
What?
He's worse than evil. He's a progressive with the most money that
So
second
he's
richest.
bad. He's bad in your opinion.
I think
Google?
I think what
Never
he
even
does
heard
has
that
a huge
word.
potential to be bad. I think what he does has a huge potential to be good. It just depends, right? Unfortunately, progressives just do things, and they think that what they think is what's good.
So he's neutral. He's just
I would guess that he means well.
That's right. But I see what you're saying. He's a progressive.
I do not think
means
he doesn't mean well.
But in the wake of his fucking shit,
Yes.
people are going to suffer.
I think that he will cause suffering because progressives do things without
Consequence necessarily.
thinking them entirely through, and you can't, right? The whole idea of
He's a progressive,
of like, we
that's
need to
dangerous.
do something now. We need to make huge shit. Yeah, like he's talking about throwing shit into the atmosphere to block the sun.
What?
And
Why?
well, because that's it's been to this discussion forever. Now, if you
man,
were familiar with
Listen, man, I just watched the Netflix
trying to-
documentary on him, and I found it
Yeah.
interesting. Okay,
if you're familiar with trying to block the sun, then we've literally got like a century of people proposing different things, from soil to sulfur to
I remember you talking
dioxins
about this or
to
something,
different
like
things in
blocking
order
the
to block the sun to
why?
to lower the temperature of the surface of the earth so that we don't.
You don't even think global warming's real.
I don't dispute global warming at all.
I thought you said to me once that you'd think it's
I said the paper, catastrophic global anthropomorphic catastrophic global warming, the paper that was being passed around by the UN. I didn't agree with that one. I didn't agree with the hockey stick or the perspective that it's like now let's start a carbon economy. To me, it's just a big banking scam. It's a scam put out by bankers to make more money.
So, but
Are we increasing the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere by putting it there?
Yeah, obviously we are, right?
Sure. Like if you add water to a cup, does it get
Are
fuller?
the polar ice caps melting at such a drastic fucking rate that it's gonna like flood the oceans and take over and like some of the coastlines?
Doesn't appear to be.
Yeah, right. I know.
Well, like the same coastline when we were kids and when my dad was a kid is still there in our neck of the woods. Other places, the coastlines changed. I'm not thinking that it has anything to do with the actual water levels. I'm thinking it has to do with the ground level. The other thing is that water levels at different places of the oceans change at different rates because it's not all the same level, right?
Yeah.
Like sea level's not a determinate thing. It's kind of indeterminate. It's based off of like a calculation because
but some of the
it's like if you were to take the center of the earth and then the sea level, it's going to be different
everywhere. Because the
Everywhere.
tide, obviously, but
not just the tide, but also just the distribution
There
of
was
the
a
water and the shape of the planet because of gravity and the everything.
who
right?
was it? I was watching the documentary that Leonardo DiCaprio did. And even Jack Black was in there, and Jack Black goes to Florida, and they're like this, and they're like, we projected this will be underwater by 2 or 3 feet by.
That's bullshit.
Well, that's it.
Everybody's just on the pipe, though, right? They're literally on the pipe and they're smoking each other's shit.
Who wasn't
and-
man, the amount of research you need to do to really dig deep. But even then, are you getting the right info?
That's
Anyway,
where between 12 and 15,000 years ago,
Who wants to hear us talk about the moon landing?
mankind, 12 to 15,000 years ago, mankind lived in many cultural centers all over the river basins and the ocean basins.
Yeah.
And and the evidence of all that was completely wiped out because it rose like 134 meters. Do you know how much 134 meters is?
That's a lot.
That's so much that you can expect that
That's a lot.
the entire cities of every single city, every single
Gone.
village, of every single cultural center, of every single human people are all underwater now. All of them. So we have like Guadalupe Tepe. I say that wrong.
You
so
totally
much.
said that wrong.
I know.
Fuck. That's a trippy place, man.
Yeah.
What's it called? Now you got to Google it.
Gobbledygook.
Goggly gloopy gleple. Fuck, and I just heard Graham Hancock talking about this. And Art Bell. Go Beckley. Tapley.
Beckley Tepe.
Oh, so close.
I actually typed in Gogglepi Tepe and it knew what I was
Did
talking
you
about.
know that they actually
Go back to
there's
Tepe.
proof that they actually buried that themselves.
Cool. They didn't just get buried in sand?
No, they're saying that it actually was buried by the people purposely. That's insane.
Yeah, Can
you put it into perspective what this is? Because I'll fuck it up.
Okay, it's an ancient city. Or an ancient ruins. It's the oldest one in the world that we know of.
Most recently found too. Most recently discovered.
Yeah, well, it was discovered. I don't know. It was made a World Heritage Site in 2018.
Yeah, fuck.
But
18? No, sooner than that. It was discovered probably in like 2013 or 14 or something.
Yeah, it's been excavated since 1996.
It was found in 96.
It goes back a little bit further, but
anyway,
discovered in 1963.
What?
Yeah. So,
oh wow.
At any rate, it's like 12,000 years old or something like that, and so it's dated between 9600 and 7000 BC.
But it's weird.
So 9600 would be.
And how does that relate to
12,000
global warming? We're crazy.
How does it relate to global warming? Oh yeah. Well, all of the other civilizations, all the other towns that are like Göbekli Tepe, are now underwater and are probably just completely fucked, right? Because it's like literally the water's been coming in and out as an ocean tide for. It probably spent like 3,000 years just wiping out whatever evidence of human existence and covering it in sand. Maybe if there's some cut stone stuff in the ocean now, we'd be able to see it if we used like LiDAR or something. But for the most part, we're not going to know about human civilizations previous to that period because they're underwater. They're gone. Like they've been erased by ocean.
And how was that?
Except for
was that a cataclysm? Like, would just snap, crackle, pop? Or that's over time?
It's over time, but it really does appear. At least it reads as a relatively quick incident.
130 meters.
130 meters. Yeah,
that's fucking deep, man. Remember, a meter is 3.3 feet. That's quite a lot. I'm terrible at math too. I'm not good at I don't know politics. I'm terrible at math. I am quite dumb. As we stated at the beginning. No, I'm not dumb. That's not nice. You don't want to say stuff like that to yourself. That seems like a meteor strike kind of like levels there, buds.
Well, it would be the Ice Age recession.
Right.
Because the Ice Age started 250 million years ago and has been receding and receding and receding and receding. What that event would probably be like some gigantic, huge chunk of iceberg that's now melting. But huge, right? A major, quick warming event that raises sea levels dramatically. I mean, it could have even, what is it saying? Between 4,000 and 2,000 years. So that's a couple thousand years.
So anyway, getting back to the topic here, just like the rising sea levels now that we're exaggerating a lot of that. Is that basically some of that's just an exaggeration?
Oh, it's totally an exaggeration. Anything that happens now, say like since the 40s, you really have to weigh it against whether or not it's there to fuck with you or whether or not it's real. Right, and it really is.
There's a lot of proof, though. I would say that, that
oceans levels are rising.
Well, just even that
literally,
the planet's fucking dying.
We live at you've driven to White Rock numerous times in your life.
Oh yeah,
you have.
I was there recently.
It's an ocean. It's literally the ocean and the beach and the road. We would have moved up 3 houses by now.
Yeah,
since we first came.
Because you've been here how long?
No. Think about it in terms of how long have people been in BC living in White Rock?
Oh, wow. Right? Yes. Yeah.
That
100 years.
At least that ocean and that rock and that pier that's been there, they haven't moved it up.
Yeah.
They haven't had to move all the shit inland.
Interesting.
I live right on the Fraser, the largest river in Western Canada.
Right now,
that's a tidal river that literally goes up and down as a result of the ocean tides. It hasn't been moving up. I'd literally be like, wow, this is a great place to live because you can't see it, obviously, if you're
even in the
last
podcast, 20 years, though.
I live right along the river. We would be moving up to Kingsway or some shit because it's like, the ocean keeps rising, so we're losing land, we're losing real estate. You could talk about Florida, but there's also other things where you end up having different tectonic plate stuff, where maybe the east coast of Florida and maybe like Louisiana, where it's sinking, maybe it's going down. The water isn't necessarily rising. You get a coral atoll.
I just want to know what
that's like. Believe. Okay, this coral atoll is obviously going under. Well, okay. Well, how much has the water raised?
I believe the ocean.
You know what the coral atolls are?
Explained that. Say it again, sorry.
Coral atolls are like islands that are made of coral.
Okay.
Right? And that's one of the things that you hear about the threats is in the middle of the ocean, there will be an atoll. The water's rising, right? Well, is the atoll going down? Is the water rising? Why is it rising there? Why isn't White Rock under the threat, right? So it's so much of what we deal with these days is either exaggerated or it's just simply manipulative.
Right.
Anything that goes through the UN is like a humongous propaganda machine. Why? It hasn't become that suddenly. It's always been that way.
See, that sucks.
The whole point of the UN is to represent the global hegemonies and have them all get along and they work together. There's no altruism. Altruism is a myth, right? It's the naivety project, if you believe in the altruistic portion of it, but it's literally just, no, it's not. Never has been.
That's sad, like the United Nations, because you think, oh, cool. Like
they're not bad, right?
Well,
I mean, nobody's really...
They're still nefarious in some ways. It's like globalistic.
Yeah. When I read the...
Now we're talking about world elites thing again, and that's what I wonder about, like these world elites that govern the planet and control what our movements are as poor ass people.
The government elites are more important than anything else.
Which that's the problem. I'm really trying to...
And not even the government elites, let's just say the elites.
Left versus right, kind of, maybe,
What's his face there? That hippie guy with
Donald Trump?
No, with the eyebrows, the hippie guy, you like him. Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe?
Russell Brand? Whatever.
Russell Crowe is not the
Russell Brand.
Oh my god! What's the hippie guy with the fucking unibrows? I like Russell Brand. He is a bit flamboyant and can be cool. I can see how people don't like him, but I think he's great.
He was talking to this guy about the government and how the people need to start protesting more and stuff like that. And the guy's like, well, why didn't the protests work during this event? And he's like, well, because protests don't work. And he's like, well, then why do you want them to protest? Why do you want people to write letters to politicians that you don't even think that they should be voting for? And Russell's like, well, but because we've got nations for people, and we've got people, all about people power. The thing is there's like major illusions. So if anybody's curious, the first thing that you need to do is realize that everything that you know about everything political is probably wrong.
Well, I already know that. That's why I watch the news.
Somewhere other than the United States of America, their political system has absolutely no relevance on yours. You probably live in something that's closer to an autocracy, right?
What's an autocracy, Adam?
An autocracy is where a single body of people rule everything. The thing is Canada and
Canada seems pretty
Australia
chill,
and New Zealand, we're Commonwealth. So we've literally just come out of a monarchy. And we were ruled with monarchy, which is the Queen, right? So if you come from a country that has kings and queens and stuff like that, that's not democracy at all.
Well, that's a dictatorship in somewhat.
Absolutely. Kings and queens are a form of dictatorship, right? They're a form of authoritarianism. Well, and they are quite often not pleasant to live under, right? Okay. Sometimes they are. Sometimes they're not. The thing is, you don't get a choice and you don't get to replace them if you don't like them, hence the democracy. But when you live in like fake democracies like we do, where it's permitted to be a democracy, right? And even then we have fake freedoms where we have them, but we only have them as long as they're valid, right? Even movement, like things like COVID are perfect examples where you literally think that you're a free person, but all of your freedoms are privileges that are issued to you until they're not. And
think about
they can be relinquished.
Exactly, and that's frustrating.
Just because an unelected, somebody you didn't even elect, an unelected quote unquote authority made a suggestion.
Would that be wrong? Would that be what's her name?
Well, in our case, it'd be Bonnie Henry because she's our
Bonnie Henry.
Yeah.
Let me touch on that for a
She's not elected. You didn't elect Bonnie Henry
but she just started saying,
decide the fate of your province. This is literally deciding the fate of our province.
Bonnie Henry is. Yes.
Economics, education, business, and social issues and everything. Everything hinges on it, and she was never elected to do that. So this goes back to the.
But she is that person. Is she just a spokesperson?
Neo-Chinese version of communism, where you have,
here we go,
technocracy, where the people you voted for are almost moot because they don't, really it's Bonnie Henry that we should be talking to. It's Fauci we should be talking to.
Yeah, but Bonnie Henry's just being told what to say. Is that correct? Or is she an advisor?
I don't assume that she's being told what to say. Newscasters are given a literal thing to say. They're being told what to say 100%.
I feel like the whole world's going to open up
Bonnie Henry
will be the last one around.
The only thing is maybe you have to conform to norms, otherwise people will think that you're a radical. So she has norms to conform to, but I think that most of those norms are pretty reasonable and professional,
like the ones we're currently going through right now.
She's not doing anything wrong.
She's doing the best she can. It's
absolutely
clear.
But
she's not the enemy.
The problem is
she's
that
annoying. She's like your fucking mom. It's like you're grounded.
The fate of our province shouldn't hinge on her, because that's not what she's been. She hasn't been elected to do that job. She's not our representative, and we're bypassing a system of elected representatives making decisions, and we're entering into a stage where our elected representatives get to make these decisions as long as the technocrats don't have some other prohibition, right? And when the health authorities can step in and say, no, listen, we're going to completely redo this. These businesses are allowed, these aren't, these times.
Right?
Now you have a technocracy, which is more similar to communism. You don't have free people with free movement. You don't have liberalism. Mm-hmm. You have control.
Okay, so
you have authoritarianism. You have a small body who gets to decide the fate of everybody for an ideological purpose. In this case, you could say that it's health, but again, we know now in the case of COVID that it's affecting mostly nursing homes, that the death rate for everybody under 70 is fairly low, and there's probably no point in sacrificing the small and medium business sector.
Well, the mental health crisis alone is going to be just insane. It already is. Absolutely. Let me just say something here. So I came up with, I thought of this the other day. I said, wow, this, because everyone's still going on about, it's going to be so long until it all opens up. You got a lot of people that are like, we're done with it. And you got a lot of people like, this will be here for 5 years, another 5 years. I'm like, okay, like whatever. But when it first happened, right, we were doing the 7 o'clock bang, like the pots and pans thing. So at first, like everyone really rallied around it. It took it so seriously. Everyone was really scared. And my faith in humanity at that point, and even now in retrospect, was restored. Like, wow, like everyone banded together and we took it seriously. And then once these things that you're suggesting, these creeped in, like, is it real, or is it as bad as
data? Once we started seeing data,
and we started, then you see people just losing their minds.
Of course, because now the response is disproportionate to the data.
Right.
Whereas while it's novel and while it's like we don't know what's going to happen, then you know what? Let's not risk it. Once the data starts coming in and we see that, okay,
and people can think for themselves.
6 months after the shutdowns, you had grocery stores that didn't shut down, which is probably the best vector of data, right? You have liquor stores, you have all these different stores, Costco's.
So weird.
So now you can look at the data as far as infectious rates in grocery stores and Costco's and stuff like that. Do you go to the grocery store, or is it somebody else in your household?
I go.
You go?
My mom works at the grocery store, dude.
Okay, so your mom works at the grocery store.
We were in ground zero the whole time.
So you're familiar with people at the grocery store?
Well, buddy,
how many people did that store lose? Do you know? What percentage?
What are you talking about? In customers?
Well, COVID is an infectious disease,
right?
That happens to be transmissible, and the grocery store is this one single place that we are all going to. Nobody stopped going to the grocery store.
There wasn't any outbreaks in that local store. No,
there's probably 10,000, 20,000 people a week going to the same grocery stores and Costco's. So the people who work for grocery stores and Costco's are the canaries in the coal mine.
Got sick.
And if they start dropping off like flies, then you know that the actual the severity in real terms, right? Not in some calculable lab term, but the real severity as far as people are disappearing. There's no job openings in my industry. There's no building. My building here doesn't have rentals. Like, holy shit, we lost 5%
so that's what I said. That's exactly what I said.
So the actual functional death rate hasn't gone up. It's gone up in nursing homes, a lot. The elderly, a lot. Unfortunately, they are the people that are susceptible to all viral issues.
Whereas the Spanish flu was just like ripping.
The Spanish flu, if this was the Spanish flu,
we'd all be hiding in our houses.
Yeah, and my rent would be dropping because
that's what I'm trying to. That's
what
I'm saying. You're saying that exactly there would be jobs available.
Yeah,
apartments would be going for rent.
Yeah,
next door,
the city would be like, we need people.
Yeah,
anybody will hire you.
Now we'd still we're a year and a half into it now, and we I think I don't know. You'd be terrified if this was the Spanish flu.
We'd be
beyond terrified.
Yeah,
it'd be horrible. And that first week, I will remember. I do remember feeling like that when I was driving to work and the highways were empty when the grocery store stock.
I loved it
because my mom worked at the superstore. And here's another thing. She was a hero for that little bit of time. And let me tell you something. That certainly changed pretty quick. Once don't be nicer to your freaking grocery store clerks. Like, holy people, because first she's a hero, frontline worker, and then as soon as the data started coming in, now it's going back to just treating her like a piece of shit and everything else like that. Not only that, but they got a $2 raise. All those and then once it all died down, the raise was taken away.
Well, of course.
And that dude who owns Loblaws and frickin' the Superstore, that dude, I Googled him. He's worth $6 billion.
It doesn't matter. It has no impact on how much the wage is worth.
What?
It has no impact on how much the wage is worth.
In what way?
Why would his wealth have any reflection of the wage of somebody who happens to work in one of the franchises?
Because they can afford to pay them $2 an hour more?
That's not true at all.
What?
No, that's you misunderstanding how business works.
Probably.
Yeah.
But
it's much like people saying that McDonald's franchise made $481 billion last year, so why can't they pay $15 an hour? And the actual answer is that's the profit of the head office. The actual restaurants.
Where does that profit go then, dude?
That's the profit of the head office.
Okay, but where does the profit of
their pockets, the shareholders'
pockets? Okay, so
pockets.
then they're greedy. Then you're
no. The shareholders themselves, or the franchises themselves, are owned by somebody else, right? So it's just the fact that McDonald's has been so successful.
That sounds like some sort of loop. That sounds like a bunch of fucking creepy
profit from success.
Well, yeah, but but people.
The franchises themselves are owned by somebody else.
From success, I think minimum wage needs to go up a little bit. I think my mom deserves $2 an hour more when she gets. Well, somehow they were able to afford that. So why did they take it away?
They probably couldn't afford it. Same as we can't afford to give everybody $2,000 a month for 5 months.
You don't think that Superstore could afford to give their employees,
all of their employees, a $2 raise?
Maybe even just 50% of them. 50% of them.
That's a steep thing.
Like, okay, my mom's been there for 25 years. Why she can get her $2 raise from COVID fucking canaries and keep it? She's the
I don't see any reason why they'd keep it. I think it's really good that they actually gave it to them because people's health were impacted from stress.
Fuck, man. But I think they should have kept it. Let me ask you, you don't think the 50% of the employees could have... So 50% of those employees...
Who chooses which one of the employees?
Well, say you've been there 15 years, you get the $2. You've been there, you just hired a month ago, sorry.
Okay, so it's based on the seniority. The top 50% would then get...
I'm just throwing numbers out.
Okay, but people get raises anyway.
Not a lot.
So with that mentality, the business world would be cautious to give people bonus raises or temporary raises for things like COVID, if they knew that every single time that happened that they had to hold to that raise now for the rest of it,
I just think it's a moral obligation.
They would be hesitant to do it. So I think
it's messed up. I disagree with you.
Stepped up to the plate to give everybody the $2 an hour.
No.
And if everybody was expecting that they should keep it, then that will actually prevent that from happening again in the future.
Well,
or at least it'll give them reason.
It should have set up It should have set a bar. Like, I mean, it's just like it's.
It doesn't mean they
pandemic.
It doesn't mean that they can afford it, though.
I think that's fucking cold, man. I think you should. I think that there's some way that we could, like, the seniority based.
It was good because there was a perception, which ended up leading to stress. But the actual reality is that it shouldn't have been considered a pandemic for as long as it was, or it should have been rebranded, because it was branded under this like Spanish flu thing where
for like a minute.
Well, not even, because people were like afraid to go to work, right? And there's still
there's so much fear
this like mind worm of there's something to be afraid of. We see the data that there's nothing to be afraid of, and there's still people saying that there's something to be afraid of. So.
You're changing the subject here, though. I'm still very curious as to like why we couldn't keep that. Like, where's that money? So if my mom gets a $2 raise, why can't? You're saying that in the business world it doesn't work that way, and there's not enough money to keep.
Let's go back to then. Why don't they? Like, why haven't they always been making $2 more?
Because of greed, sir.
Do you think so?
I think so.
Or do you think just because of like balancing the books?
I don't know.
They need to be able to
think of it as a pyramid. Like, I'm worth billions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, running a grocery store chain of superstore. I like my net worth, or like or just there. I just feel like
there's probably not that case.
There's probably some room there to toss down. There must be some room there to toss down to the franchises to freaking give back to the employees. Like,
why would you toss money down to the franchises?
Well, you're saying that the glass ceiling is the franchise owners. You're saying, okay, well, you're saying all the McDonald's chains is owned by a dude that has nothing to do with the actual owner of McDonald's.
The franchisees own each restaurant.
That's right.
So it'd be like if you franchised out your brand, right? Okay. Say you got a brand and you want to franchise it out to Sport Check and to Costco. You want them to have a couple things in there, and you want to, but you want to almost sell the licensing so that you want to allow them to make it with your logo or something like that, right?
Okay.
Now, let's just say it gets really, really big, and you get to do that, and you've done this now all over the world.
Yeah.
Now, the store itself is selling something. Let's just say Winners has it, and Winners is actually making it themselves, or they've got some other company that makes Winners clothes, and like a Joe brand or
You're
whatever.
Losing me here, but okay. I'm okay.
Like Joe brand.
Yeah.
So they've licensed your thing, and they're selling a sweater, and the sweater's $28, and it costs them $2 to make. And this is happening all over the world, right?
I know.
So you're just getting you're getting loaded, right? You've now got like $800 million a year. You're just getting crazy amounts of money from all this sorts of shit because of the licensing. And somebody's like, why is this shirt why is this sweater so goddamn expensive? I know it only costs $2 to make. And you're like, what are you talking about? And they're like, well, I live in North Carolina and there's a Winners there. And you're like, oh no, that Winners actually gets it made in Mexico. That's their own company that they do the thing. I just license it to them. And they're like, yeah, but you're worth $1 billion now a year. So why isn't your brand being sold for cheaper? And you're like, no. I just sell the license for them to use my brand. They make the sweater, they distribute it. That's actually their product. Basically, it's just my licensed. Now we're talking about the same thing. Now we're talking about the McDonald's franchise.
It's not my problem anymore because
it's not about it's not your problem. It's that you don't even have any connection to it. You don't even have any say.
There's still levels
you're
of
disconnected.
There's still margins.
You are a person who has a design that people happen to want, and so you've licensed it out.
I understand.
And you happen to be making a lot of money because of mass distribution of it, because it's all over the world. So now you're making this huge cash. You're really only making like pennies per item, Whereas the people who are distributing are making the vast money, and they're having to pay the vast overhead. They have to pay the retailers or the employees, plus they have to pay the brick and mortar stuff to sell your brand.
It's too expensive, man. I'm just saying, like, you're going on and on about all this
And
stuff.
now
And I understand what you're saying, but
you're completely detached from it, though.
I'm not that detached. I'm saying that
If you were the brand owner.
Oh,
And somebody who's botting, and you're like, dude.
Okay, so exactly, they are detached. But
You're like, I feel for you, bro, but I have like, I can't. What am I going to do? License it to them for cheaper?
yes, or something.
But you only make 2-3 cents per hat. It's just the fact that they sell a million hats all over the world.
We're talking about Superstore, and
Same as McDonald's, bro.
but the massive company that's just ridiculous.
They make a trickle. The fact is that they make a trickle from thousands of stores all over the world, which ends up being a major profit, and that is just the
reality
benefit of being successful.
Okay, I'm just still saying that there's room in there somewhere to give my mom a $2 raise and keep it.
You don't know that. You'd have to audit the books, though.
We'd have to sit here on a computer and go right through all the books and I would bet my fucking balls on it, man. That somewhere
I wouldn't bet your balls, because that's
fuck, man. I would bet somewhere in all that paperwork and somewhere in all those franchises and somewhere where that dude that's on top of the McDonald's money pile eating a fucking poutine is there's room there to give back to the people, man. I mean, haven't you seen?
Well, again, that's a weird way of looking at give back to the people. If we don't let people make money without trying to fuck with them and take it,
they could still be greedy.
They will take their making money somewhere else and make it. Myself included.
Then we're two different people. You're like corporate.
No, we're not two different people. I just understand how things work, and you're living in an illusion.
I don't think so.
Yeah, you are.
I'm talking.
I guarantee you, dude, because the only difference between you and me on the subject is that I'm aware of the actual variables and you're not. It's not like I own stuff. I'm not a CEO of a multinational corporation who's trying to screw people out of their money. Right?
I'm not saying on the bottom. Villainous. I'm
on the bottom with you.
Yeah.
I just understand how things work. And I'm telling you that if you knew what I knew, you'd think the same thing.
I think if I knew what you knew, I would find a few areas where it could improve. Like even in like that.
You'd
what's
be
that
like,
documentary? Where to Invade Next with Michael Moore, where he goes over to the UK, goes all over the place. In Europe, and goes to these factories where these owners, like even Ducati, man, where they build the bikes and stuff. Have you seen the documentary?
No.
You should watch it, where it talks a lot about where they go to these factories where they're building the Ducati, and the owners are making less profit, giving more to their employees.
That's cool.
Hold on.
Yeah.
More hours, longer breaks, more holiday pay, happier employees, happier people. And the guy who owns the Ducati fucking franchise still living it up.
And a capitalist would say, that's great. He's actually going to...
Fuck your capitalism.
He's going to... No, it's your capitalism too, dude.
But there's a level
He's going to take all the best employees because he has the best package for them, right? So if you're a person who makes cars and you're the best, you're going to work for him because he pays the best.
Right.
Right? It's a whole... Now, the difference between us is I think that he's got a great model in order to stay competitive in the employee industry. He is going to keep his employees.
And work. You keep your employees.
Right.
You're like, the industry I work in
but
is like such a revolving door.
But that's the way everybody should do it. Because we're not commies.
Oh, God. Right? So I'm saying part commie, part capitalist.
There's no such thing.
I had this argue with one of my bosses. I don't know if Angus will ever listen to this, but he was saying, he was with you on this. I was like, what about there's a level where money should be, and he disagreed too. He said, well,
once you start telling people what to do, there's nobody left to tell. They all just disappear.
Yeah, but it's not working. What
every single socialist nation who thinks, you know what, we should be the ones in charge. We should be the ones benefiting. We should be the ones profiting. We should be the factory owners. We should be all these greedy bourgeois that are controlling us and landowners robbing us, and we should be the ones. And the government's like, we'll do it. We'll give it all back to you. And they're like, yeah. And then the next second,
not all.
Nike's pulling out, Goodyear's pulling out.
Yeah, well, because
Apple's no, they're not dicks, dude. It's because they've worked hard, not only for their physical property, but for their intellectual property. They've built factories from the ground up that nobody else built.
On the backs of freaking
not on the backs
child
of anybody.
labor.
No, not on the backs of anybody. They've actually improved villages by providing jobs.
Okay, well,
right?
This is a rabbit hole.
People want jobs, right?
Yeah, and they still pay them really low wages.
So that's the other thing is communists believe that everybody should be working, that the government's job should be to give everybody a job, but they also have ideological ideas that prevent business from wanting to be there. So jobs actually go away because once you indicate that somebody who has possessions will no longer have those possessions because there's an idea that's more important than possessions.
I'm saying taking away a little bit of the possession. All you can still live on your fucking giant pile of money.
Once you can take away any of it,
that's fucked.
Then all it takes is 4 more years and somebody else will get into power that has a different value system than you, and now they take away more because you've given them the opportunity to take away anything.
I'm not saying
this is about
there
principles.
Have to be regulated. Okay, I get it, but I still I'm still just here fighting for my mom's $2 an hour because she busts her ass in a job.
No, I appreciate it.
You know what I mean? And I still think there's some wiggle room there. I should probably really educate myself to the point, like to your level of understanding, but I do truly believe that there would still be a world where we could meet halfway with
There's
everything.
no world that you can decide.
Now. We live in a world of corporate
There's no
greed.
world. That's not corporate greed, dude. It's how, like, it's so childish, honestly to God. Like, you literally would not have a goddamn thing were it not for corporations providing it to you. They're literally giving everything to you. They're because they profit from it. The grocery stores are full because they profit for it. But if they weren't full, you would be the main person who suffers.
I understand that.
So would everybody else. We would be the people who suffered if profit incentive did not exist.
So you don't think that there's margins there where these titans can make their profits and the little people can still also have a little bit more? I'm not even saying half. I'm saying, hey man, give that minimum wage person a little more, and the big motivated dude can keep going, man.
There's means by which to try to get that, and you can ask for a raise. In the case of they're unionized, in that case, so the union can try to fight for more. And then now you've got actual people with data who can sit down and go, okay, well, here's the numbers. Look at how much the store makes, right? Like the fact that Jimmy Pattison owns 900 things and makes a lot of money is inconsequential because it's not part of the system. That's a really naive way of looking at how the system even works. To think that somebody should be giving back or something, again, brutally naive.
I'm just saying,
we are lucky that they're there providing us ramen noodles. Otherwise, we wouldn't have them, or they would be $8 a pack. Right? The minute that
$8 a pack. What about gas being $1.50?
The minute that we are like, nobody should be allowed to make this much money. Nobody should be allowed to. Here's the regulations.
That's not really what I'm saying, though.
The minute that we put a single regulation on profit,
then you're saying it sets the precedent, and
everybody will fucking jet because nobody wants to deal with that. Especially nobody wants to take their chances with the types of loose cannons who don't realize the value of private property.
Who do you agree with? If anyone's listened this far, I am now really interested. And what are you leaning here? Like, help me understand better here. If you are listening this far, and I want to know who's got a good point. Do I have a good point? Does Adam have a good point?
You don't have a point, though.
My
haven't
point
made a point.
Is that
I'm making a point, and you're talking about an illusion.
My illusion is I get up in the morning.
Yeah.
I got to pay $1.50 for gas. My insurance is however much that is. Food is however much that is. Rent is fucking astronomical.
Okay.
Taxes, this and that. To go out and make a fair wage and then come home and try to feed your kids, try to freaking pay all your bills, you're living paycheck to paycheck. You're in the grind, and it seems like the system is built in such a way that we are just cogs in the wheel, and
which is true.
Which is super okay, and
I don't deny it.
And there's no room to do much. Like, unless you're insanely motivated and just go live in a box, maybe to try to save money, like my buddy does.
That's true. I don't disagree.
You know what I mean?
With
Like,
any of that.
I'm not saying, yo, dude. I understand what you're saying. Like, yes, we should opportunity. Not everyone should get a participation badge. Roger that.
That's not what I'm saying at all either. I'm saying that you're talking about extremely dangerous ideologies, and you're thinking that somehow the world, it's all the world owes you something.
I don't think I don't think the world owes me, man. I'm one of the most motivated people I know. I'm okay with
saying that the root of it, like, why can't these billionaires throw in an extra $2 an hour?
Yeah.
For what? Like, again, how does that not equate to the world owing you something?
It's not owing. My mom gets up super early, busts her ass, puts up with horrible people.
Let's remove it from your mom, because a lot of people do. Right?
A lot of people what?
A lot of people make what we would consider to be not a high wage, right? Anything under $15 an hour for an adult is not a high wage.
And how you can't live in fucking where we are right now for $15 an hour.
You can, though.
How?
I don't know. People do it.
You don't have much.
No, but people do it.
I know they do, but that's tough.
It is tough.
Real tough. They don't have a nice mom. They don't have cable. Probably they don't drive.
Nope. But the world never owes you that either.
Okay,
the world doesn't owe you any of that shit.
I know
the resting point of the world is that you wake up, you're cold, and then you start starving.
And so you got to go out and achieve.
No, literally though. We're not owed apartments. We're not owed house. We wake up in the cold and we're hungry. That's the reality of life.
Zeitgeist, man.
Of course I have.
What did you think of that?
I have no idea how that relates to this at all.
Well, because it just talks about...
You wake up in the cold and you're hungry. That's the reality. Nobody owes you food. Nobody owes you shelter.
So let's go back to that then.
You learn how to make a shelter.
This shit.
But that's what this is. This is just a complicated version. You learn how to make a shelter. You learn how to gather food or kill the food.
Yes.
That's what this is, except for this is a complicated version of it.
Yeah, but no one's telling me that I have to go, like, in that world though, there's not some dude that's got the fucking monopoly. He's got a monopoly on the fucking deer, man.
Yeah, there is, and he fucking kills you. In fact, he comes up from behind you as you're skinning the deer, and he kills you and takes the deer. And there's nobody that can stop him. Right?
Well, that's an uncivilized world. We live in the civilized quotation mark world, brother.
Yeah, I know. Where people are fortunate enough to have a job. Right? Well, so now we're fortunate enough to have a job.
You're talking in the name of
in order to be fortunate enough to have $1.79 shampoo and $1.25 bowl noodles and a $3.25 bread. And in order to keep all of our groceries low enough so that more people in our society can eat, the people who work at grocery stores also don't make a very good wage. If they all made an extra $2, we can say that the people on top are going to take a hit. What's actually probably going to happen is the people on the bottom are going to take a hit, because that's the way things work. Is that the profit is, if they don't make enough profit, they're just going to shut the doors. And now everybody starves.
I'm just saying.
So they're going to make enough profit to keep the doors open, in which case either you have a well-paid employee or you have a reasonably priced bottle of bourbon.
The fucking superstores, the save, like the big
That's what I'm talking about.
Corporations, well, like the little guys.
Yep. Do you know that without those big corporations, a bottle of Kraft Dinner would probably be $3.99? They've actually brought the cost of Kraft Dinner down to like just over $1 because they compete with each other. They compete on a mass scale. So rather than a store who has the guys got bills to pay and everything like that, these are like gigantic franchises that they all get to kind of split the overhead, right? And they buy 1 million boxes of KD for a few pennies less per box, and then they start competing with each other. Now it's like, well, I'm $1.25. Well, I'm $1.16. Next thing you know, it's $1. And they're competing with each other to get the price as low as possible. They're making like a half a cent per box, but because they sell 1 billion boxes, they can do it. And as a result, more Canadians eat. It's crazy. It's crazy, their corporate greed. Literally feeding us because we can afford it.
Craft dinner's not fucking good.
No, but same with it's everything in a grocery store. The prices of the items in a store.
Still, though, I feel like
the
Walmart's
overhead,
too. You
the
go
profit.
in there and you're like, this is cheap. Look at that little tag, that tag. Then you get to the cashier, you're like, $100? What?
Yeah.
You ever notice that when you go to Walmart?
No, I notice that at the grocery store all the time.
No, but Walmart, you think you want to go there because somehow those price tags, they look.
Never.
There's something catchy about them price tags.
0 is the number of times that I've bought food at Walmart. Because I'm not ever going to buy food at Walmart.
Why not?
Because it's like the buck store to me.
Walmart's Walmart. I don't go to Walmart.
To me, it's like the buck store. I don't trust their source stuff.
I know, but like I have friends that are like, I'll never support Walmart. They're corporate.
Oh, I buy stuff there all the time.
Bags, blah. Like, okay. I just seriously went there the other day because it's close and it's where I could get a couple cheap items.
Best socks, best like wrapping paper, best
work pants.
Sure. Really?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed that. I would have figured Marks.
$15 pair of jeans the other day, but
nice.
I don't know, man. I mean,
I usually go to Value Village for jeans.
I just don't want to have to try everything on.
I don't try anything on. I know my size.
Still the legs, man.
Oh yeah, no, like 20% failure rate, where they have the.
So what, you get home and it's like, oh fuck.
Yeah, they're definitely not going to fit.
You got to try shit on, dude.
Yeah, but if it's $7.99, I don't care. It's like Buffalo jeans, $7.99.
I'm such a diva, dude. I get nice pants, nice jeans, nice shoes. I just like to look like a rock star all the time.
When I do buy jeans, they're usually like new.
I did buy a pair of ripped jeans from fucking Guess, so brand new ripped shit.
Yeah,
but I mean that's almost all you can get. But I don't know. Value Village has its purpose for sure, man. I just don't. I would just buy work jeans there. So what is that? I mean, we're at I don't know, what is that, a wrap, Adam, or what?
It's probably a wrap. I don't really think that we really talked too much about left versus right.
We kind of talked about we got to the point where
it's like what isn't it is kind of more.
Okay, then let's end with this. Like what is your idea? Okay, so the left versus the right. I mean, we're talking about, the right is sort of based in Christian fundamentalism, right? Traditionally, which is very, very limiting belief, let's be honest. Mm-hmm. Leftism is a little more freeing. I mean, it's more, like you said, motorcycles, girls, hey man, let's do,
Yep.
And it's obviously changed, and it's all
because now, like, Ted Nugent would be considered right-wing.
I like Ted Nugent, man.
Nugent's like...
Do you like Ted Nugent? He was awesome on
I like a couple songs, for sure.
I'm talking about him as a person.
I don't know.
I never. A lot of people like he's out of his mind. Like I thought the Joe Rogan episode with him was great. I don't know. I think he's kind of a radical. My point is, though, then what would your ideal political system be, man? Like, what do you think?
I think in order for us to
we've established that I'm communist.
Yeah. In order to move forward.
Not really, though.
No, you're not. But the thing is that our culture right now is being influenced by communism. Like actively being influenced by communism. And it's not the first time in history that this has happened. First time it was the USSR,
right,
literally trying to influence North Americans to have communist ideologies, right?
Ideologies or ideologies?
Ideologies, the same thing.
Idiots versus idealists. No. I'm being fucking gag reel right now, buddy.
They're both idea-based. But now it's... probably the Communist Party of China, who's inundating everybody with communist principles, like the right to housing, the right to work.
And I think a percentage of that is healthy, man. I'm just trying to infuse corporate.
It is naively healthy, but the question is that
capitalism?
Why is
communism? Squish them together, get all the best parts of both, and let's go.
That's called capitalism. Right? Communism doesn't have any good parts.
You're making me feel stupid, and I don't think I am.
Probably in this case. It's like people who are into communes. People who are into communes, right? Okay. Like if you're into a commune, you can't do a commune under communism. Right?
And we've both...
So let that soak in.
What? Say it
you can't do a commune under communism.
Why?
Because communism controls what you can and can't do.
So I'm on a commune with a bunch of hippies. Everyone's naked. We're planting seeds. We're growing food.
The whole idea is freedom. The whole idea is that you get to live off the land. You get self-determination. You have freedom. Communes themselves are very liberal because you get to be yourself. You get to have your own opinions, and you get to criticize the infrastructure that you're living in. The moment that you're a communist, traditionally, I've never heard of a communist in practice where you're actually allowed to criticize the country or criticize the system. You're not allowed to. It's incredibly controlled. You're only allowed to do what people decide you're going to do. You don't get to own the land.
That sounds like a dictatorship, dude.
It is, right? Communism has always led to dictatorship. Right. Even a technocratic communist system, which is what people these days would be leaning towards, where, it's like, well, why should we listen to bureaucrats and politicians about health? We should be listening to the health experts. Well, okay, but the health experts, you can't replace them. You're not voting for them, and you can't replace them, and they're not representational. We should be improving our representational democracies by having better representation. We shouldn't be eliminating the need for representation, moving to an authoritarian-based system where, if you're an expert, you're the only person who has the authority to decide what is and what isn't. And even just like really small things like intersectionalism is a branch of modern leftism that says that, say, for instance, if you want to talk about a black topic, you can't talk about it because you're white.
Which is almost kind of fair in some ways.
It's fair in some ways. Yeah, I agree. But it also says that the real meaning of intersectional would be that the more things you've got against you, the more struggle you're going to have because of it, right? So it's not just that you're black, it's that you're black and female. Now those two things intersect, but in the actual end of the day, what the fuck was I saying?
I don't know.
At the end of the day, it's the idea that you're not qualified to talk about something unless you are the person who experiences it or an expert on it. And that literally leads into a form of technocracy where it's not, let's vote on things. Let's have a democracy. Let's have a moratorium or a memorandum or whatever the fuck it is where we can put a vote into the next election for it. Let's let the experts decide.
Right. So then,
which is, again, it's dangerous to me.
What do you think we should, like, what's your, like, I have my view, and what's yours then? Where do you think we should move? What should we move into?
I think we should hold on to democracy as strongly as possible, where everybody is literally free to do what they choose, and nobody's ideas or their ideologies or their value systems are imposed on other people.
Would you get rid of Trudeau then? Trudeau.
Well, I'd have to replace him with somebody if I did.
And okay, do you have beef with him? Like I can't.
I don't think that Trudeau is very suitable for Canada at all. I think he's horrible for Canada.
All right.
But I think everybody in our political hegemonies, both in the Canadian Conservative Party and in the Liberal Party of Canada, I think it's horrible. We're literally looking at neoliberalism. They're not just liberal; they're neoliberal, which is like everything that you think of a conservative as far as business, where they just sell out their people to business. They just lick the boots of business. That's neoliberalism, right? So the Liberal Party of Canada isn't liberal like civil rights.
It's liberal like
let's lick the boots of oil companies, and which to some degree is okay because there's a relationship between business and everybody else that has to be maintained. Literally, they give us value. Once you unpack it, they have a lot more to offer than people are giving them credit for. Thinking of, like yourself, you're saying corporate greed, almost approaching it as corporate greed drives everything.
Well, it's a pretty general term.
Yeah, but we have these things, right? Like you're going to drive home, you have a motorcycle, you can get a hat made, right?
I can, but I still believe that there's
access to all these things which are incentivized by profit.
I know,
profit and
hopefully someone writes into us with this after this conversation.
Some form of neoliberalism isn't bad, but the Canadian Conservative Party has ruined its reputation, and social issues that are being used as political leverage, namely gay marriage issues or abortion issues, those aren't political issues. Those are social issues.
Yep.
But they're being people are being manipulated politically using those issues. I think the Canadian Conservative Party has ruined the platform, has put a bad taste in people's mouths. And if I was to replace Trudeau, would I replace him with another Canadian Liberal, or would I replace him with a Conservative? I wouldn't want to replace him with either, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah, like even another argument is like, how is it like you look at the United States and they come up with Biden and Trump. Like these are the only two candidates, or Biden when he went up against Trump. Like these are the only two people available to run your. Yeah. There are over 300 million people in the United States.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's like 329 million people, the population, and the only two jackasses you come up with.
And it seems absurd.
What is that? Why isn't The Rock running for president? Why isn't Arnold Schwarzenegger? Why isn't Oprah?
It's a hegemony. It's a hegemony.
It's fucking weird.
Again, it's why it's not really a democracy. Why it appears to be a democracy, but it's not really a democracy. You know, the DNC and the Republican Party, and same as the Canadians' equivalents in the Conservative and Liberal, they decide who you get to vote for, right?
Okay, that's a dictatorship.
They choose, not really, but it's a hegemony. Meaning
these are all just such
words that you don't know. I know.
No, I understand these words, but what they are is a bunch of words to describe how they just break it all down and confuse the shit out of you even more.
I know.
Then they wonder why the vast population don't vote or pay attention.
But it's competing power interests,
Roger.
Right? It's competing power interests, and you don't really get the choice. Whoever's going to run in 2024, in 2028, in 2032 in the US, they're already thinking about it. They literally think ahead. They're preparing people for the future because they have a future in mind. Here in Canada, we are way less organized than that.
Yeah,
way less organized. I think the Liberals are probably organized more in that such because, like, where does a drama teacher suddenly become prime minister? Well, he's groomed.
He's a snowboard instructor actually at one point too.
He's chosen. He's part of elite culture, a hegemony. He's part of families, right? These are people that know each other. Literally. It really is, though.
Well,
they're not lizard people, but they are.
I almost got them there.
They're literally, though, groups of people who have been in power forever and will always be in power forever. And they've fooled everybody into thinking that you get to choose somebody to represent you. You don't get to choose anybody to represent you. You get to pick between one of them.
That's pretty much obvious, right? Like, I mean, look at JFK.
Trump was the only exception where Trump was a wrench in the cog.
How did he get in, though?
He surprised the shit out of everybody. He wasn't supposed to get in.
It was, how did they thought their system had a flaw in it then, or some kind of vortex where he just kind of,
where Hillary was so bad that people voted for Trump.
Oh my God! But I mean, then you think that when JFK was assassinated, like that was the last president where they're like, whoa, let's put the brakes on here now and reel it back in. I mean, he was for the people, wasn't he? I mean, wasn't John F. Kennedy? He was against the Vietnam War. He called out the fucking secret societies. He was legit. Yeah. And then he was dead. And ever since then, who was after him?
Who knows, right?
But I mean, it's all been corrupt weirdos.
You look at World War One. From World War One, World War Two, JFK onwards.
But all back then,
there's what people would call. I don't like the term, and I was actually going to say something last week, but I didn't say anything. You mentioned the Illuminati a lot, right?
Well, I don't.
Which is mostly a fictional idea.
Well,
right?
A lot of people believe in that, though, dude. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's like Area 51. They don't have alien ships there anymore.
No. In my opinion, they never did. But
there's another podcast topic. But
the spirit of the Illuminati being literally the hegemonies, the aristocracies of multiple countries that have had their own kingdoms, and then in the past were competing. Right? If we look into the further history, over the last 200 years, we've seen the end of a bunch of empires, and we've seen the end of small empires, or that they've grouped together. There's major long-term family and long-term power interests that have been intermarrying throughout European and history. And Absolutely. Where families have been injecting themselves into the long-term aristocracies through marriage and they're extremely wealthy.
And
the wealth never really ended, right? Like the idea of the Illuminati is from the early times of America when
throwing that word out pretty loosely. So
yeah, they got like the Bavarian Illuminati was a thing, but they got funding at the early days of the U.S. when the U.S. was trying to detach from Britain. They needed money, and the Austrians injected a bunch of money. It's the story anyway. Adam Weishaupt from the Bavarian Illuminati. Okay. This is the story, right? But the spirit of the idea is fine. I'm not even going to argue it because there does exist the organization of extremely wealthy remnants of empires and shit.
Nefarious.
People. They're nefarious, but they're only nefarious because anybody competing with you is going to be nefarious in some way or another. They want to control everybody, right? Because that's what they do. Money's probably secondary at this point in comparison to control, right? Especially considering now the Communist Party of China's part of the global interplay of power. They don't give a shit about money. It's all about power because money is just a tool for them to interact with other nations.
Didn't China release the coronavirus to break the world economy so that they could come out ahead?
Well, that would be interesting. Honestly, I'm personally under the impression, again, I don't believe anything, but I think the data points to that it was leaked, that it wasn't an animal that was eaten in a wet market. Mm-hmm. That it was leaked from the Wuhan lab. Like, I think actually that the evidence points to that, right? If I'm wrong and it's actually find out that it's a pangolin or a bat, that's fine. But I think the evidence at this point suggests that it was a leak at the Wuhan lab. And I'd assume
a purposeful leak or an accidental?
Accidental, absolutely.
And
I'm 100% with the goodwill argument until proven otherwise.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I'd say it was accidental, but never let a good disaster go to waste.
And that's a good way to end this, which is never let a good crisis go to waste. And when you told me that, it rang in my head pretty good. And that is something to always be curious, always question everything.
Join us next time for Belief versus Probabilism.